Got traffic there. Last there, just take it up to the departure end of the runway, then a left turn and a left downwind. Cessna over the threshold, coming up on the white dot, at or beyond the white dot, left turn first available. I got a high wind coming up on about a half-mile final, clear to land at or beyond. Traffic on the left base, you're following a Cessna down, low off your left. Square it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get you in. Start your descent, though. Start your descent on the base. Traffic on final, give me follow on base. Base traffic, start turning toward the numbers now. High wing coming up on quarter-mile final, take it all the way down to the green. Cessna taxiing on the green, expedite down to the next hard surface. Get me some speed, there you go, 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 go fast. This is going to be good. I got traffic on a mile final. You're following traffic ahead and to your right. High wing coming up on the threshold. Take it all the way down to the green dot.
5 Charlie Sierra, 2 mile final.
A mile final, turn north, and we're going to just make you, we're going to bring you back around. Jet traffic's coming up on about a mile and a half final. Runway 9er clear to land.
Okay, all right, let's listen up, guys. If you're on final for runway 9, I want you to offset to the left. I got a jet that's landing on runway 9. The jet's cleared to land runway 9 if you can make it. If not, just continue straight ahead. It looks like you're going around for the jet. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine.
Oh, we have one right in front of us, sir.
Dragger, let's see, what we got, a tricycle, put it down, tricycle, put it down, tail dragger, down to the green dot, then a left turn. Short final here, you cleared land on 9, all the way to the white dot, go down to the white dot. Find somebody to follow out here. Kennard, just come to the runway and I might have to just send you around, that'll be fine. And for the jet, you just want to stay in this pattern or you want to go back out for an instrument approach?
Stay in a pattern, Charlie Sierra.
All right, just stay with me here for a minute. And my tail dragger, let's see, over the numbers, go down to the green. And Kennard's going to have to go around. Kennard, go around. And my high wing here over the runway, keep it airborne. You do not descend. You got a fast guy behind you. Do not descend. There you go. Keep it airborne. As soon as the guy behind you gets slowed down, I'm going to put you down. So keep it airborne. The one that just passed the white dot, make a left turn on the hard surface. All right, my high wing tail dragger, you can put it down now. And Charlie Sierra, let me get you about a mile off. Let's see, Charlie Sierra, I lost. There you are. Make a left-hand turn. I'll try to resequence you here on the downwinds. We'll see how it looks. Short final, you're clear to land runway 9 on the white dot. There you go. And the tricycle left on the hard surface and follow the flagman. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. And let's see, just find somebody to follow out follow on the final. And as you get close to the runway, if it's not going to work, we're going to send you around and then try to resequence you. Now, who else got sent around that's not back on the downwind? The Kennard?
Yeah, Kennard.
All right, Kennard, there's a Gulfstream up there that went around too. I just lost sight of him, but you're going to make kind of a left-hand turn and stay low. I think Charlie Sierra, what's your altitude?
3,200.
Okay, that'll be fine. Just maintain VFR. I don't know what else is up there above you. Probably most everybody's down here, so just make a left-hand turn. We'll try to get you back here.
Kennard's got the jet in sight.
Okay, the RV, maybe an RV-10, whatever, you're on final. Keep your speed up and go all the way down to the, aim for the green dot for me. Actually, keep your speed up. There's a guy behind you. Aim for the green dot, and I'm sure that's plenty of room for you to land on runway 9. You're clear to land on runway 9. Number 2, you're going to go down to the white dot. Follow the white dot. Actually, you know what? That's 1,500 feet. You're going to land at the white dot. The spacing looks adequate here. 2 guys on final. You're kind of tight there. Keep each other in sight, and you're going to aim for the white dot. If it's not going to work, we'll come up with a plan B. We might have to send you around. The second guy behind you out there in about a 2-mile final. Are you slow enough to be able to follow that guy in front of you? You need to go around.
Yeah, I can follow.
Well, I probably shouldn't ask that because I had about 5 guys answer me, so I should know better than that. After 35 years, you would think, right? All right, so let me see. The guy who's number 1, it's number 1. What kind of airplane is he? An RV type. All right, RV type. Keep it airborne for me. Keep it airborne. And I got a fast guy behind you. The number 2 guy over the trees there. Go ahead and put it down on the numbers. My first guy just coming up on the numbers at the over the grass at the numbers. I want you to keep
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Hello.
Four, three, two, one.
Hello!
Hello. Welcome to this Thursday evening's live stream. We've got a stunner as usual. Tonight we've got some disturbing news about Scampton, which we'll get to in a minute. We've got an electrical loving just up the road at Kemble here. We've got news of an ATO arson attack. And tonight, starring for the first time, we've got Johnny as the first ever, for him anyway, quizmaster for higher or lower. So we'll be playing later. As ever, we couldn't do this without the support of SkyDemon. So thank you very much, SkyDemon. Where's my mouse gone? There it is. That's so slick. It's unbelievable. So here, tonight, is your SkyDemon top tip.
Hi, I'm Tim from SkyDemon. Welcome to this week's top tip. When you're flying over water, you may have noticed a blue ring around your aircraft. As it says here, this is how far you can glide without an engine based on the best glide indicated airspeed and glide ratio that you've set up for your aircraft. SkyDemon takes wind and terrain into account when working out how far you could glide. You can turn on the glide range feature when you're over land too. In navigation options, scroll to the bottom and change Show Glide Range to Always. Now that we're over land, SkyDemon is showing us how far we could glide before we're at 1,000 feet above ground level. The idea is that if an airfield is inside the ring, getting to its overhead with 1,000 feet to spare gives you a good chance of landing there. You can change it to a different height, again in the planning options. For our full user manual, go to skydemon.aero and choose Help and Support.
Well, that's prompted me to just quickly Google the glide ratio of my aircraft because I'm not entirely sure that I've set it up correctly. And I might have set it up for like a STEM 110 with a 50-to-1 glide ratio or something.
I was going to say that is a great feature, but it does rely on you putting in some data because I was just looking at that going, yeah, I don't think I've done anything for that. So in a moment of terror, I would be like, oh, look at me with my cone of nowhere to go.
If anyone's interested, Cessna 182, 9.3 to 1. There you go. But the other thing I'd forgotten, I knew about the glide ratio ring, but it takes you to like 1,000 feet above the point. Yeah. So that's quite good. Then you've got another 1,000 feet to muck it up or to get it nailed.
Good. A quick reminder from John Milner, 63 people watching, less than 10 likes. There's a lot more people watching now, so we need a lot more likes.
That's right. Let me just say, I was about to come onto a little thing there, but thanks for the prompt, John. No, that's the other bit. Like, if you like our content, do us a favour and give us a like and a subscribe. And if you're watching this on Catch Up afterwards, give us a comment. That all really helps us out. And if you want to help us out even more, as I know many of you are, you could join the Flyer Club. It's going to cost you £5 a month, which is a billy bargain, particularly when you see the landing fees you've got access to this month. And you've got 4 stonking landing fees pretty much every month anyway. So, and a members webinar, and you get access to all sorts. Anyway, just do it. £5 a month, for God's sake. Blimey, man's got to drink champagne after all. Not really. Honestly, it's just water. Right.
What I want to know, though, is when is this blinking wind going to calm down a bit? Shall we see if the Lord of Skew-Tees has some answers?
Let's see if he has.
What an intro.
I know.
I do have a few answers, Ed, but I'm not sure they're the ones that you're going to want to see. But,
Not interested. Go away.
Okay, fair enough.
Would you like your charts up, Simon?
Go on, then. Go on.
There you go.
Look at that. Very slick. Wonderful. Okay, so actually, it's not too bad a weekend. It's certainly not what we got used to over the sort of last few weeks. Things, as you know, have definitely changed now. We're back into business as usual, but it's not a bad weekend at all. This is Friday, so we've got quite a moist southwesterly wind blowing across the country. That's going to bring in a fair amount of cloud. Fronts aren't really telling all of the story. Look at the ceiling forecasts there. So green is 2,000 to 4,000 foot bases. The yellows are 1,000 foot to 2,000 foot bases. And then the reds are below 1,000 feet. So you see how kind of western parts of Wales getting into sort of northwest England, parts of the Midlands seeing some low cloud. Also southwest Scotland, parts of Central Ireland. But lots of white colours on there as well through much of Scotland, northeast England and southern parts of England as well. And that's the position at midday tomorrow. So I think through tomorrow afternoon, actually, the cloud will break and it will lift. It's just those western coast and hills that really are going to be still in some murk, and perhaps some murk coming up through the channel as well. Not quite reflected on the forecast there. But the wind, you'll be pleased to know, Ed, has dropped. It's probably a southwesterly coming in at around about 15 to 18 knots for most of us. So on to Saturday. And it's looking like Saturday again. We're in a warm sector. Notice how that warm front's moved a little bit further northeast. Still lots of cloud over us, still a moist air mass. And I think, again, sort of western parts of Wales, parts of southern England, probably in low cloud with some sort of stratusy bits in there and some drizzle as well. And I think that sort of bothers the channel on and off through Saturday. So check the forecast really carefully if you're thinking about anything cross channel on Saturday. I do think there could be quite a bit of low cloud. Now, with the cold front coming in from western Scotland through central Ireland, that brings us some more persistent rain in those areas. Typical bases around 1,000 to 2,000 feet, tops on that around about 12,000 feet. But notice elsewhere again, we're generally free of rainfall, generally free of most low cloud as well. And I think probably mornings starting off a bit murky across central and northern parts of England and eastern Scotland. But again, the cloud lifts so that by late morning into the afternoon, we're probably 3,000 foot bases, tops about 10,000 feet. Only thing we've got to watch for Saturday, this is what we call quite a stable air mass. So eastern Scotland, northeast England, probably parts of the Midlands, getting quite a bit of turbulent flow coming off the mountains to the west. So I think quite a bit of mountain wave activity, and we could find gusts double the mean surface speed. So if you've got a 15 knot surface speed, you could get 30 knot gusts in those areas. Again, just check the forecast. Don't be caught out by those. And then Sunday, bit of a breezy one, I'm afraid. Ed, you can put your head in your hands again because we've got some rain through Scotland. Elsewhere, quite a breezy sort of day, a blustery day, sunny spells, scattered showers. Typical base is about 3,000 feet, tops about 12 to 15,000 feet. One or two showers across the west. That low mist and murk has cleared away, though, but we've got the wind replacing it. Most areas dry with some sunny spells. Just got that rain across Scotland. So all in all, it's not a bad weekend. It's not generally bad. And certainly I think Friday, Saturday look pretty decent. Just watch those gusts on Saturday afternoon. So don't forget, Aviation Weather School Part 1 coming up. My live online course presented entirely live online by me on the consecutive Tuesday evenings of the 10th and the 17th of June between 6:30 p.m. and 9 p.m. Book your place now. Click on the QR code or go to weatherschool.co.uk and I'll teach you all things weather. There you go. Have a great weekend. I'll be back in a few minutes though. Bye for now.
See you in a bit. See you in a bit, Simon.
See ya.
Before you go, Tom McCormack says, Simon, where can we find that GFS cloud-based chart?
Okay, Tom. So if you go to weatherweb.net, which is my other sort of website, and go into the aviation section, you can find them on there. So go into the aviation section of the website and they're on there constantly updating. And they're cloud ceiling forecasts. So I think it's cloud coverage more than 5/8, and it's the low cloud and it's above ground level. So they're really useful charts. Don't trust them completely, particularly for really low level cloud. But they're generally they're really quite good.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay.
See you later.
See you in a mo. Bye.
See ya.
Ta-da.
It's like we sent you away on holiday and you came back with like a full presenting skill set.
Holiday? Holiday? That would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah. But no, you did. You're right. And I don't know what's happened. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? I'll go again and see if the same thing happens again. Right. Time for some news. Dave, you're up.
Yes, Scampton, the former home of the Red Arrows and the Dam Buster Squadron, it's one of UK's most historic airfields with an incredible heritage. It's back in the news again. I'll just give you a quick recap. You may remember that 2 years ago, the local council to the airfield, West Lindsey District Council, came up with a plan to transform the site into a business, aerospace and heritage centre, working with a new company called Scampton Holdings. Very shortly after that was announced, the Home Office said it was going to use the site as a centre for asylum seekers, and they parked a load of porter cabins on the runway. Then in September last year, after spending 60 million quid on these porter cabins, the Home Office actually probably wasn't on all that, but anyway, the Home Office changed its mind and said the plan didn't offer value for money. Fast forward to April this year, the Home Office, said it would sell the site on the open market, possibly to housing developers. The Home Office Minister concerned, Dame Angela Eagle MP, insists the Home Office is committed to continuing work with West Lindsey Council to progress their interest in the site. Despite that, she insisted an open bidding system is essential. So, bring it up to this week, and well-known World War II historian and broadcaster James Holland, he of the We Have Ways of Making You Talk podcast that he does with comedian Al Murray, he's waded into the argument. James thinks there is still time to stop this golden opportunity going to waste. That's his quote. He says, for Scampton, there is still just about a plan in place that offers any number of ticks in the right box. The Scampton Holdings proposal is promising continued use of the airfield and an immediate plan for a fully licensed CAA classification that will see it form a critical part of the UK strategic airfield network. And at the same time, they plan to create a high-tech aviation and aerospace hub and aspects of current and future defence that are vital. James continues, it will provide jobs long into the future in a deprived part of the country, jobs and ongoing treasury income that will considerably outrun any building projects. He finishes with, it will also safeguard the incredible heritage of Scampton. So what's not to like? To any sane person, absolutely nothing. What would you rather see? And a housing development in the middle of nowhere where no one has any jobs and they're all going to be on benefits, because there are no jobs in that part of Lincolnshire. It's a rural part of the world. Or would you rather see a heritage centre that can bring real kudos and atmosphere and jobs?
I fear you're preaching to the converted, Dave.
I know.
My fear is that at the moment, under the current government, that houses win.
Well, there's a real problem in the east side of the country, as we've probably heard on the news tonight. There isn't enough water for all these places they want to build. They're building at fast rates and reservoirs, but it's still going to take a long time for that to come on track. Anyway, I did mention the Red Arrows earlier. So talking of them, it's the start of their display weekend, their display season this weekend. On Friday, tomorrow and Saturday, they're at the Midlands Air Festival. Then on Saturday, after performing at the Midlands Air Festival, they go to Torquay for the English Riviera Air Show, Saturday and Sunday. English Riviera, this weather. Okay, after that, displays come thick and fast. So just check their movements before you fly over the summer. And if somebody can there's a link in the script somewhere at the top for where the Red Arrows display dates are. But,
if you want to know when to lock up your daughters, check these.
They've changed, Ian. They've changed.
Have they?
They've all been sent on courses and not formation courses.
Yeah. It's a different kind of courses, I think.
Yeah. There's an interesting comment from Mel Moxon about Scampton. She says, I don't like it. However, can't we build houses on defunct military bases rather than forcing operators and businesses out of places like Nottingham? Tough one, though.
Well, yes. Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, you're right, Dave. But Lincolnshire has not got a huge amount of jobs and stuff like that. It's a very, very agricultural place.
Yeah.
And so I'm not entirely sure how people will get mortgages if they're all on benefits, as you suggested. But maybe they'll be, because I don't think it's social housing or anything. But who knows? But as has been said, it's a massively historic site. It would be really good to see it preserved. It'd be really good to see it preserved as an airfield.
Yep. James did actually make one other point in that piece. He said he was really livid about the fact that a lot of the heritage stuff, including Guy Gibson's office, has been stripped, and no one seems to know where all this stuff has gone.
Yep, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
That is shocking.
That is shocking. Yep, it's probably appear on eBay at some point.
Well, I'm hoping that it's just kind of lost in the bureaucracy of the ex-MOD disposal people, and that it'll all come to light, and actually it's been preserved for a museum. And
well, the RAF have got a whole air historic branch, so you'd have hoped that they
would be involved,
have something to do with moving it. I've been in that office and seen all that stuff, so yeah, it's quite impressive. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it is impressive.
I've cycled around the taxiway
You
a long time ago, and then the evening after that, the evening after I finished that bike ride, I had a pint in the bar at the Petwood Hotel.
Did you cycle around the taxiways whistling the Dambuster theme tune?
I didn't. It was a 100-mile bike ride, and I had no spare capacity to whistle. To be honest, it was all I could do to cycle. But yeah, no, very, very well worth a visit. If you can't get to cycle around, go stay a night in the Petwood Hotel. That's a good thing to do.
Fantastic.
Right, Ed, give some electrical news, I believe.
So yeah, and I know sometimes we're a bit sceptical about electrical aviation news, but I know you're nodding, but I think that this is a couple of really good bits of news. And the first is that Vertical Aerospace have left the circuit, amazingly, because it was witnessed by our own Johnny, who looked up from his garden and saw this going on. So Vertical Aerospace, I'd say they've made the first ever piloted wing-borne flight of an eVTOL in open airspace. I think that this is the classic press release with some interesting statements in it, but it's still great news nonetheless. Anyway, Vertical's VX4, which was flown by Chief Test Pilot Cy Davis, made a conventional aircraft takeoff, like we're normally familiar with. So apply the power, wing generates the lift, off you fly. VX4 flew away from the circuit, and this was obviously all approved through the UK CAA, but basically they extended Vertical's permit to fly to go and do this. Cy Davis says our performance predictions were absolutely spot on. The aircraft took off as a natural extension of all the ground tests and preparation we've done, while Stuart Simpson, who's the CEO of Vertical, said achieving piloted a wing-borne flight in open airspace under the oversight of the UK CAA is an important moment in our certification journey. And there was an interesting following statement he said, where he said, every step must be approved, and that's by design. It amounts to a mini certification of our prototype and gives us a clearer, faster path certification. Now, I think that's the reason I say that's interesting, because mini certification, we know that things are either certified or they're not certified. But I suspect it's probably a good thing, a good soundbite for the investors. So, but I've got to ask. I mean, obviously, this whole first flight in open airspace. Didn't the guys from Skyfly leave the circuit in the Skyfly Axe?
They did.
With Bill at the helm. So Vertical. It's maybe you need to look at other British compatriots and go, look, you guys have done that already.
I think, and I don't know if you find the same, but the press releases we get these days that are aimed at the general media as opposed to specialist media, which is really where those people are kind of interested in stuff. They're a little bit flexible with some of the stuff.
Yes, and I did go, because you can check our story online. I also went to read Vertical's press release, and like many of these things, you get to the end and there's nearly a whole press release about things called forward-looking statements and the use of certain words and what they may or may not mean. So, but it is great news. But meanwhile, while Vertical were doing this, in other exciting electric flight news, Beta Technologies, yeah, exactly, Colin Wilkinson. What about Beta? Beta pitched up in Ireland. They had their CX300 CTOL, which is the conventional takeoff and landing version of their eVTOL. That was shipped over to Shannon. They flew that to Western Airport in Dublin and then onwards across the Irish Sea to Liverpool in a 1 hour and 18-minute flight. From Liverpool, they flew to Birmingham, 43 minutes, and then headed to Coventry, and then dropped into Kemble to meet the Vertical team. Now, you might think, oh gosh, this will be kind of hand-to-hand combat between the teams, but actually, there's no rivalry. Vertical have an interest in Beta's work with charging systems, Beta probably have the biggest network going. Granted, I think that's all in the States at the moment, but it's 150 sites. And Beta, I hadn't possibly really looked into them and given them enough credit for what they are. And they are, when you pay attention, they have achieved a massive amount. They've been on this now for probably 6 or 7 years. They've got two aircraft, one an eVTOL and one a conventional takeoff aircraft. They both kind of look the same. One has rotors, one doesn't. So the Alia cruises at 135 knots, and they've actually flown a demonstrated range flight about nearly 340 nautical miles. And they're saying operates that 75% less emissions than a Cessna Caravan. And if you're wondering why the Cessna Caravan comparison, well, that's because UPS have signed a deal to purchase up to 150 of the eVTOL Alias. So they're thinking of the future. And if you're wondering why Beta have all of a sudden turned up in Europe, well, that's because Bristow, who've got plans to order at least 55 of them, they're going to be running demonstration cargo flights in Norway between Stavanger and Bergen in late summer. So Beta obviously gone, let's go over, let's fly it around, have some fun before we go and do our demonstration stuff. And last year, Beta flew the Alia across the US. So that was a 6-week tour. So it's pretty, I have to say, I'm really impressed. Apart from the fact, and I'll stop soon, but Beta as a company, they've got this rich thing of kind of encouraging staff to become pilots. Last year, they made 16 new pilots in their staff. How cool is that?
Very cool.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I just want to point out one thing that I think Johnny mentioned earlier, but you see the Beta has the ETPS sticker on it. ETPS clearly don't have any small stickers, do they? It's bigger than the bloody registration.
I know. It's like I want to know more, because that means I'm guessing that there's some of the Boscombe Down Empire Test Pilots people have got involved with this, and that wouldn't be unusual because Beta are part of the I forget what it's called now, but they've collaborated with the US military for future technologies, and Beta have been putting military test pilots in the Alia all through the last 3 or 4 years. So,
Good. So there you go, electric stuff, and it's happening just down the road from here.
Yeah, and as Midlife EDR says, we need airfields to accommodate eVTOL. So because people aren't going to be as much as we go, oh look, it's point to point, land in the middle of a city. People aren't going to be watching that in the middle of a city, are they? So.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Right, are we done on the electricity?
Yes. Yep.
I'm done. That's all I can say.
Now we're all fully amped, as it were. Right. Okay. So some bad news, as it were. If you cast your mind back, if you've been around a little while, you may remember a school that was initially based at, well, maybe not initially, but was for a while based at Coventry Airways Aviation. They were professional ATO. They did sort of the CPL, IR, multi ATPL kind of thing. Attended a few of our events, and then I think it was pre-COVID. They bought a school, pretty well-known school in the south of France, in Montpellier, called ESMA, and moved their entire operation from Coventry to ESMA, taking any students who wanted to go with it, stuff like that. Anyway, last Tuesday morning, someone broke into the premises on Montpellier Airport. Montpellier Airport's like a full-on commercial airport. It's not quite as busy as Bristol, but it's kind of got the same status as a place like Bristol. And then stuck a whole load of incendiary devices in the cockpits of a bunch of DA-42s. This is from the local newspaper, the Midi. Funnily enough, I happened to be at Montpellier Airport that day, although I didn't realise this had happened at the time, and it was complete coincidence that I was found burning my clothes. No, but because it was because this took place on a sort of in a secure area of the airport, and it became effectively a federal crime. Which is the kind of rough translation. And a special brigade from Paris come down and are investigating. So that's being looked at quite seriously at the moment. But I think they lost 3 or 4 of the DA-42s they had, and a bunch of singles also partly damaged as well. So clearly, to have done that in a secure area of a full-on commercial airport airside is
quite an undertaking.
quite an undertaking, and I suspect there would have been a fair amount of CCTV. So watch this space. Well, hopefully we'll find out. I'm guessing it's not someone who's just annoyed with the noise around there.
Yeah.
But there you go. And then moving on to other commercial stuff. Emirates have a school in Dubai, and they run Cirrus SR22s as their basic trainer, and they've got Phenoms as one of their Phenom 100s as one of their transition training, because obviously everything has to be the biggest and the best. And they've just decided to do the UPRT stuff, and they've bought a bunch of Game Bird. Game Bird. That dates me, doesn't it? Game Boy. Can anyone remember those?
I would love the Game Composites Game Boy. That would be brilliant.
I can't believe they do free Game Boy with every Game Bird.
So I'm just trying to imagine the spec of what would a Game Composites Game Boy be? Would it be like 100 horsepower and barely able to pull the skin off a rice pudding? So
no, it'd be like an iPad Mini, wouldn't it? With all of
iPad Mini. I've got to say though, that they've gone a bit heavy on the tint with that.
Yeah.
And all I could think of when I saw this is like a really modified, kind of boy racer Corsa. It's like there's some similarities there. I feel.
I think your ability to squint and see what you want to see, Ed, is even better than mine.
That's Dave.
I'm not convinced that photo hasn't been heavily photoshopped.
I know everyone was like, "Oh no, it's CGI." It really isn't. It's just out in the Middle East. It's just really bright light, isn't it? And
someone's grabbed the burn tool off of Photoshop and they've decided to make that.
Yeah, I've seen some higher res images, and it is a real thing apparently. So, anyway,
what can I say?
More importantly, I've had my pronunciation called into question. Linda Griffith says, "How do you pronounce?" And I've just checked. It's apparently it's Stavanger. Is it?
Well, I don't know about Stavanger, but it's definitely Stavanger, isn't it? I don't know.
No, apparently I got it wrong. So it's. I think Linda's going to come on and give us a lesson in how it's done, aren't you, Linda? So.
Well, I've flown into Stavanger, and I remember calling Stavanger approach and tower. They didn't go. No.
I fear maybe we've all been doing it wrong. Anyway, Annabelle says we need a live stream special where I say words like Auster and Balado and Stavanger.
Auster, yeah. Balado. Right.
Anyway.
Johnny.
Right. Let's play a quick game. Got the Q1 Gamma numbers out, which were published either yesterday or today. That's the General Aviation Manufacturers Association. So I'll give you the headline figures. 2024, there were 774 civil aircraft shipments. This year, there were 857, so an increase of 83. Let's start with Textron quickly. 108 last year. What are we thinking this year? More or less?
Oh, more. Textron, I think more.
128, so increase of 20.
Okay.
Pipistrel, 26 deliveries in Q1 last year. What do we think this year?
That's got to be more, because they've been at all the shows and everything else. They got to be selling a load more.
I'm gonna say not, because I think that things seem to be up. They've kind of crossed the peak for Pipistrel, maybe.
Halved. 13 delivers so far this year.
Wow.
Okay.
Do you think that's... I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but...
If you think that, probably don't do it.
Pipistrel was a brilliant, is a brilliant, innovative little composite manufacturer with a fantastic headquarters and manufacturing facility. And then Textron took them over, and whatever, like it or not, Textron will bring a certain amount of corporate culture, and corporate culture doesn't always sit well with fast-moving innovation.
As Matthew Craig Taylor says, our Pipistrel not under Textron, and it is I think we did say when news of their takeover of Textron was occurring, it's like it's a risk, isn't it?
It is.
It's a risk.
Yeah.
So.
So quickly, Waco or Waco or however you want to pronounce it. What do we think?
Wow.
So last year they delivered 3.
Wow. More.
Less.
Same.
1.
One.
1 this year. Yes. And
one so far though, just in the quarter.
yes, in Q1. Yeah. And so let's talk about Cirrus now. So last year it was 75.
Yeah.
In Q1.
That's got to be more, isn't it?
I would say more. Yeah.
That's got to be more. They're a very ebullient manufacturer, so they're going to be doing pretty well.
150.
Oh wow! Holy cow!
So they almost on their own have resulted in the increase of 83 across the whole market. So their increase was 75, and then the whole market was an increase of 83. And the SR22/22T, they sold 54 in Q1 last year and 100 in Q1 this year.
Wow.
Jeez.
A massive increase. And interestingly, just looking at Europe versus the USA in Q1 last year, Europe deliveries was 155, US deliveries was 155. Q1 this year, what do we think Europe versus US?
Probably more US, I would have said.
Yeah, gotta be.
Yeah, so Europe was 123 and the US was 242.
Wow.
So they were on parity last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
and this. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, incidentally, Piper were 39 last year, 45 this year, so a slight increase.
But those Cirrus numbers, massive.
I mean, this Q1, the Q1 figures wouldn't really have been hit massively by all of the tariff changes and stuff like that.
No.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see in Q2. Well, it'd be interesting to see what happens with the tariffs for a start. But,
of course, those figures are shipped, aren't they? They're not just sales. They are delivered aircraft. Yeah.
Delivered aircraft. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And based on how we know things like engines are difficult to get hold of at the moment. Maybe the whole aircraft world, well, apart from in the world of Cirrus, maybe everyone else is just struggling to get bits and deliver airplanes. So,
Who knows? Cool. Very good.
And there's more pronunciation things going on. Lyndon has called into question my Waco versus Waco. Nigel, who's my barometer of correctness, says that seems about correct, Lyndon. Waco, some people explain it as, but it's not Waco or Wacko for sure. So, and Annabelle's she's gone all wah and wah. So
I thought it was Wacko com taco. I thought it was a taco.
I'd always understood not Waco but Waco, and in instantly appearing 600 kg microlight news, Let's Go Flying says an ellipse demonstrator will be arriving in September this year.
Right.
So that's the cool elliptical wing T-tail thing, isn't it? So
yes.
Talking of elliptical wing T-tail things, has there been any news of the Swift?
No.
T-tail anyway.
When they making that out of sackcloth or hemp?
It's made out of unobtainium, Ed.
Yes. Yeah.
I can remember it last at an LAA rally many years ago, so I'm not quite sure what's happened to that at the moment.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's fair to say if you want pretty T-tailed elliptical aeroplane, go and get an ellipse. It's probably going to be sooner and more realistic, more reality-based product. So.
Okay, good. Yeah. Right. That's enough of the news. Let's move on because we've got some weather coming up in a bit, some stonking summer weather dangers that we're going to talk through with Simon. But Johnny, before that, give us some information.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of knocked it out before the news. But yeah, join the Fly Club. I'll just briefly tell you about June's landing vouchers, which Annabelle has done a good job in getting. East Kirkby, Jersey. Hang on, let's move that so you can see Jersey.
What happened to France, by the way? on their map?
Balado and Sackville Farm, which is a great mix.
Oh no, David. It's where is it? Where is it? Really? David Eads has already said Balado.
Are you sure it's not named after that after the ABBA hit?
Was it an ABBA hit, or was it? You're thinking of Agadoo?
Agadoo, yeah. Oh, not Balado. Sorry.
Yeah. Thousands of Scots are spinning in anger at the moment.
Any more, Johnny? Sorry, before we take the mic.
No, that'll do. Let's get Simon on.
Okay, let's get Simon on. Right, where's Simon?
Simon. Sorry, did I wander into Pedant's half hour?
Yeah.
I feel like I've been listening to Radio 4 at 11:30 p.m. on a Saturday evening.
I don't think it's not even that good, is it?
It's not.
Someone pointed out during yesterday's Skype stream when we were getting a little bit self-aware about that we might have been quite dull. Somebody pointed out actually many of the people watching yesterday are members of the Dole Men's Club, and they actually quite like it. The Dole Persons Club, I guess.
We did do a very quick survey just in case, and I did say, are you scared? Do you like your Dole stuff? And apparently it was 100% yes.
So we've increased the Dole.
Yeah.
And speaking of Dole,
no, it's the highlight of the show.
Yeah, I believe it.
Okay, how did that screen change then? I don't know.
Was it because we were like, hang on, is it?
I don't know.
There we go. See,
there you go. That's what we need. Simon, sorry to make you small. You are our star guest. You are our fantastic.
He's at the top of the pillar.
Broadcaster, educator, and
I dreamt of being up here. This is a dream. This is really a dream come true. I've peaked now. Nothing can beat
there we go. Mark Linden says your shirt's too exciting for the show.
It is. I would have to take it off, but I won't. Anyway, where were we?
Where were we? We're running late. Oh, blimey, I've just seen the time. Right, let's get through this. Simon, the weather's great. The weather's perfect, but apparently in summer it's not always perfect. So you get those things called thunderstorms. Let's just start off with a quick basic. What are the elements that are required for a thunderstorm to form and bring havoc and stuff and keep us grounded?
Okay, so recipe for thunderstorms. What we're going to look for in summer is we need some heating at the surface, and we need cooler air at sort of medium levels of the atmosphere. And that creates what we call instability. So instability is basically a large temperature decrease between the surface and high levels of the atmosphere. And what happens then is that you can get convective processes triggering off. So basically bubbles of warm air at the surface that will continue to rise so long as those bubbles of warm air are warmer than the air that they're rising into. Now, the other thing we need is some moisture, because if that bubble is dry, it will just be an area of turbulent air. And we've kind of all been out, haven't we, on those days when we get blue sky days and it looks gorgeous. We go flying and it's absolutely horrible, throws us around everywhere. Those are the thermals that we can't see. Those are blue sky days. But if we get a hose and we shoot some moisture into that thermal, eventually, as the warm air rises, the moisture within it will have to condense out, because the air can only hold so much water as a vapor for any given temperature. So if we cool it enough, it kind of wrings the air out like a sponge, and that's what we see as cloud. Now, so long as there's enough moisture around and that air continues to rise upwards because the air surrounding our bubble of air is colder, then we just find the cloud increasing in vertical extent. And it's that gives us the thundercloud. And that's your recipe for thunderclouds. Heat, cold, moisture. That's what we want.
So it's a bit like a lava lamp with added moisture.
Yeah, a little bit like that. And it does move around like that as well within the clouds. The warm air within the cloud will kind of move up. Some of it will sink, but overall, most of the air is rising upwards. And this picture that we've got on the screen at the moment, I took it because I thought it was just an interesting cloud. I mean, there's so much going on within that cloud, but just at the bottom of it here at the cloud base, that's where the condensation process has taken place. The air is rising. This was sort of the early morning when I took this picture. So the air is continuing to rise, and the thermals are still kind of trying to punch upwards through the atmosphere here, which are the bubbles that we're seeing here. It's been caught by quite a strong wind coming from this direction. It's sort of blown the top off. But so long as there's enough upward motion, so long as the surface is warm enough, those bubbles will continue to rise. And actually later on in this day, there were heavy showers, and I think there was thunder in the evening as well. So yeah, absolutely, it's a little bit like a lava lamp.
Cool. So if we were looking, you know, obviously that's going to be called out quite nicely in the TAFs and the VTARs and stuff like that. But if we were looking days ahead at some of the charts, what kind of thing is there? A kind of telltale that's going to be stormy thing?
Yeah. What we want to look for is particularly northwesterly flow. So what we call a polar maritime air mass. They're always good for generating showers. They're normally not that brilliant when it comes to thunderstorms because there doesn't tend to be quite so much moisture in them, particularly during the summer months. So what we're going to look for is a northwesterly behind a cold front. That usually generates some pretty hefty showers. The big summer thunderstorms come about when we get light air at the surface. So a typical situation is when we get a col. So that's C-O-L. That's when we are between two areas of high pressure and two areas of low pressure, and we kind of sit in the middle, a little bit like a jigsaw piece it often looks like, with sort of protrudences coming off either side, sort of north, south, east and west. Those are the two areas of high pressure, two areas of low pressure, and we sit sort of in the middle there. So we get really light air, the sun can warm the surface quite happily, and that's usually a recipe for the large summer thunderstorms that we see. And we're actually at the moment in peak thunderstorm potential season because we're at the time of year where we see sea breezes coming in, which aid to the development of those storms and showers as well. So we need two scenarios. One is a northwesterly polar maritime flow bringing in cool air, and the other one is a col where we sat in light air between two areas of high pressure and two areas of low pressure. That's what I normally look for days in advance to say, yeah, there's a risk on those days of thunderstorms.
Okay, so we're kind of quite lucky in the UK in as much as we tend not to get the full extremes of weather, and we're kind of like a little bit in the middle. So compared to some of the places, how if we get a bit of a cracker of a storm, how big are we talking? What's the kind of what kind of extent could it be, and what might it top out at?
Typically in the UK, as a diameter, so kind of going around the storm, if you were going to look down on the storm, around about sort of 20 miles is a classic average sort of area. Compared to Europe, so if you were over central parts of Europe and we get what's called a mesoscale convective system, an MCS developing, these often form over France through the summer months, generated by heat. And then that area of the storm can be sort of 150, 200 miles. So they're big, big systems. And what we can find during the summer months particularly is that both in the UK and in Europe as well, if we were to get lots and lots of weather observations around these storms and within these sort of storm cells at the surface, you can actually draw warm and cold fronts on them as well, because they're rotating systems. So they're just like areas of low pressure, and you can actually draw warm and cold fronts on them when they're that big. But the ones in Europe, you know, the bases of the clouds, typically in Europe, about 3,000-4,000 feet, but the tops can easily get to 40,000-45,000 feet over France and Germany and the Low Countries and northern Italy during the summer months. Here, rare to get anything above about 30,000 feet as a top. Occasionally it can get up there, but the bases in this country generally have a big storm around about 2,000 feet. So they're, you know, they're smaller here than they are abroad. What we do get more of than they get in continental Europe, we get more tornadoes and waterspouts from those from the cumulonimbus clouds that are developing the storm. So we do get a lot of those because of the way that our topography works. So areas particularly sort of south of Birmingham, running into parts of Wiltshire, coming up the southern coast of the UK, frequently get reports of tornadoes and water spouts. And, we don't want to be flying in those, do we?
You definitely don't. Talking of the tops of clouds, I don't know if you picked up on a news story that was out, I think broke yesterday or the day before. It's a Chinese parrot.
Yeah.
Parrot got sucked into a cloud. This is a non-motor version of whatever it is, so para wing or paraglider.
Yeah.
And sort of basically taken up to something like 29,000 feet. The whole thing's on video. It's completely encrusted in ice. Managed to get sort of frostbite and stuff like that, but still managed to sort of find his way out and land. And I thought the funny thing was the Chinese said that they're investigating this because he didn't file a flight plan.
Yeah. They've banned him from flying for 6 months, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll take that long for him to thaw out, I'm sure.
It will, won't it? And there's, I think it was minus 35 where he went to. So that's really, I mean, and imagine the oxygen at that level. That's really unusual for anybody to survive.
Yeah.
At that level.
Yeah.
It kind of raises a few questions, doesn't it? That.
Yeah.
When I saw the video, because the video it's some pretty good video of it, and I did what it was almost too good. I don't think it was like AI or anything, but right. But it kind of, I wonder if he was what was the name of the guy who jumped out of the aircraft when he didn't have an engine failure, and who ended up in prison?
Yeah, can't remember.
There was a guy who ejected, wasn't there? He ejected, and he was coming down on a parachute and got sucked up into a thunderstorm, and ended up in the middle of a thunderstorm. And he's written a book that he wrote a book about that, and it is.
I think he touched down something like 2 hours after he ejected.
Yeah.
Where is he? God,
well, when you've got sort of vertical speeds approaching some, you can easily get sort of 3,000-4,000 feet a minute from these big systems. So and they will support. If you think about it, with clouds, they're basically, particularly cumulonimbus clouds. You look at the size of the hail that can fall from cumulonimbus clouds. That updraft has got to be enough to hold that hail. So you've got, if you sort of take one hailstone and then times it by perhaps 3-4 million, the weight that thermal has to hold up is absolutely huge. So you can see why, if you're on a parachute, why you're just going to stick there. And this is one of the reasons why, as well, aircraft that have flown through the storms as well, the systems as well, very often have problems descending because of exactly that reason. Those updrafts are just so strong. So it's that they're amazing. They are amazing systems. I tell the story of James Glacier, who, do you remember the film a few years ago, The Aeronauts? That was out. It's on, I think it's still on Amazon. Other streaming services are available. But James Glacier is actually the father of upper air meteorology. And he was the guy who went up to, I think, 32,000 feet. Passed out. The guy that he was with, Coxell, was the guy that he was with. He was a professional balloonist. Glacier was taking weather observations. Coxell was the professional balloonist. Glacier actually went blind as the balloon was ascending. So this was about 1852. Somebody will give me the correct date. So Glacier goes blind because of the lack of oxygen as the balloon ascends. He passes out. Coxell nearly passes out, but manages to climb onto the skin of the balloon, release the vent using his teeth, and they eventually come back down to earth. But that was our first observation of the upper levels of air. And guess where he took off from?
Where?
Hackney Green.
The exotic location of Wolverhampton Gasworks.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he landed in Ludlow.
Wow.
Well, while just checking up the name of the guy who ejected and got sucked into the thundercloud, who was called William Rankin, and he wrote the book called The Man Who Rode Thunder. I've just discovered that there was a Polish paraglider pilot called Ewa Wisniewska, and she ended up in a cumulonimbus cloud and got sucked up to 33,000 feet in 2007.
Was she the one who was unconscious? She
Yes.
lost consciousness and then regained consciousness after landing.
Yeah,
Is
looks
that
like.
some amazing thing that she kind of landed, obviously floppy because she was unconscious, survived it, and that's when they realised what she'd done because it was on the.
Apparently, there's a French documentary called "Miracle in a Storm" about her story. So,
Wow, that's got to be worth. That's
some
Coming back to some dangers here, you mentioned it.
Yeah.
You mentioned it earlier, but I want to talk a little bit. I'd like you to talk a little bit about hail, really, because
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, not every storm generates hail, at least not at ground level.
Okay, I'm going to click on a couple of pictures here as well, just to show you because I've got a good one here. Okay, so that's a storm that is generating hail. So, how does hail form? First of all, so hail is where a water droplet freezes. It's caught in the updraft of the cumulus cloud or cumulonimbus cloud, and it rises upwards. It goes through the freezing level, and then it freezes. Gets to a point where the updraft can't sustain it anymore, so it falls down. As it comes down, it passes through the freezing level again and thaws, but it doesn't completely thaw because there's not enough time for it to thaw. So another updraft hits it, it gets sent up through the cloud again, and it freezes. And this up and down motion continues until the hailstone is too big for the updraft to be able to sustain it. And then hail will fall. If you cut a large hailstone in half, you'll actually see there's rings like an onion, and that tells you how many times it's been up and down within the cloud. Forecasting hail is pretty tricky. You need a depth of cloud. So generally here in the office, we always think of sort of you need a depth of cloud of 12 to 15,000 feet in cumulonimbus cloud in order for hail to develop. Typical signs of hail. So on this cloud here, which was over, again, this is Halfpenny Green, you can see that most of the precipitation is falling within this zone here. Now, it doesn't show very well in this picture, but just here above the control tower, it's a slightly greenish hue to the cloud. That's always, and you see it kind of extending out here a little bit as well. That's always a sign that there is hail within that cloud, and it's likely to start falling very, very soon if you see that sort of greenish hue that's there. If you've got hail within a thundercloud, it tells us that it's a real mature cloud. So that cloud is going to have downdrafts in it, and those downdrafts are going to be very strong, and you don't want to be caught into a downdraft, because what hail does is, if you imagine, as it falls behind it, it creates a gap in the air, and the air rushes into that to replace it. So it just continuously drags air down with it. And we get what I call the Monty Python effect. You know, at the beginning of Monty Python, that foot that came out at the beginning of the sequence and went and squashed, that's basically what happens. So that hail falls and drags cold air down with it. And the problem is that when we get one of those downdrafts, and we call them microbursts, it kind of switches on suddenly. There is very little warning, apart from this little bit of greening at the bottom of the cloud, and then it kind of just opens up like a water bomb and everything falls out of the sky. So the rule with these clouds, I mean, if you're seeing this, really, I think the advice is you steer clear by 20 nautical miles, but you don't want to be flying anywhere near these things. These are so active, and particularly when hail is there, that's telling us that you need to be extra careful.
Can you imagine running into a whole load of hail at 150 knots or something? That would be not very funny at all.
Not pleasant. Other thing with this picture as well, let me show you. See up here, can you see how dark blue the sky is?
Yeah.
So when you've got a day like this one, where you've got cumulus clouds around, so it's an unstable day, the bluer the sky between the clouds, the deeper that blue is, the more unstable the air is, and the higher the likelihood of heavy showers and thunderstorms. So if you've got a really sort of light blue, normally the showers are more scattered. But if it's that dark blue, such as on here, the risk of thunderstorms and heavy showers during the day is increased.
I never knew that. So talking back, you mentioned briefly microbursts there. And of course, one of the other things that we get with storms, particularly certainly at ground level, is kind of gusts and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit about the scale of those gusts and
Yeah, so each cloud varies, but I mean we've all been there, haven't we? Where you kind of have a day of sort of 10 knots, a shower comes through, and suddenly there are those gusting winds. So you tend to find that they run ahead of the showers. The strongest of the winds are normally running ahead of the showers, and they kind of fall out the showers forwards of the cloud. So when we're forecasting, and remember that as forecasters, you can't just come into things cold. You have to have an idea in your head as to where these numbers kind of usually sit. So I mentioned it in the weekend forecast, actually. Typically, if you've got a moderate sized cumulus cloud, generally you're thinking gusts of double the mean speed, generally ahead of that cloud. If you've got a large cumulonimbus cloud, you can easily get gusts of 3 times the mean wind speed. And what you tend to find is that the lighter, when we've got a day of heavy showers or large cumulonimbus, the lighter the wind falls ahead of an approaching shower, the stronger the gusts of wind will be as the shower approaches and passes through. So if you get that fall off in winds ahead of the shower, normally that's a precursor to the winds becoming very gusty, and usually with quite a bit of variability as the shower passes through.
Cool. We were taking a little sneak peek at one of your favourite guilty pleasures, which is skew-tees earlier, and I think you have a skew-tee with a rather unique looking cloud in your day.
So this was a cloud this is a picture that was taken. This is by Tim Bannon at the at Airspace ATS down at Ha'penny Green, and some beautiful mammatus cloud hanging down within this cumulonimbus. I mean, the whole sight of that cloud just says, I'm an angry big cloud, doesn't it? You know, that's gonna get you. Mammatus actually means breast, and you can see why, can't you? These are literally bags of water and hail hanging below the cloud, ready to be released. So this is a hugely unstable day. Tops on this cloud probably in excess of 25 to 30,000 feet. So how does that look on a skew-tee? And you know, as you said, skew-tees are my kind of guilty pleasure. This is the skew-tee from that very afternoon. So what we're looking at here is basically a height versus temperature graph, and temperature's along the bottom, height's along here. But you know what, don't worry too much about that. Just to give you an idea, this is in millibars. 500 millibars is around 18,000 feet. 850 millibars, about 5,000 feet. So you can see here, a red line is temperature, blue line is dew point. Where the two touch is where we have the most cloud, in this case around about 5,000 feet. But there's a grey line here just to the right of the red line. That is, if you imagine, when I talked about those bubbles of warm air rising upwards, those are the path that, or the trajectory that those bubbles of warm air would take. Now, if that grey line is to the left of the red, those bubbles of warm air can't rise. They're not going to go anywhere. The air is stable. If the grey line is to the right of the red line, those bubbles of warm air can rise until the grey line goes to the left. And in this case was about 380 millibars, so probably best part 25,000 feet, as I say. So this is where skew-tees become really, really useful, because this was the forecast for that afternoon. And you can get these kind of 8, 9, 10 days in advance. So when you look at these things, if you see a grey line to the right, that tells us there's likely to be showers or thunderstorms on that particular day. And the further to the right that grey line is, the bigger the shower clouds will be, the bigger the cumulus, the bigger the cumulonimbus, and the heavier the showers, the heavier the thunderstorms are going to be. So it just shows again just how useful these forecast skew-tees are, and that one there produced that. So you know, it's amazing stuff. And when you see these clouds developing, wow, just unbelievable.
That's fantastic. Unfortunately, we appear to have run out of time, and we're already at 29 minutes past. So, have we got any quick questions from the in the comments that we need to?
There was a good one. Martin Loosby said, "In a squall line, what exactly is a sucker hole, and what advice?"
Okay, so score lines. So if we've got a trough, so troughs are marked on the Met Office charts as those solid black lines. And I go on about these at weather school all the time. There's loads of people on here who've been, you know that I go on about these. So the sucker line is that along the trough, you will get breaks in the clouds sometimes along the trough. And you can be tempted to go for that hole to get through the trough. However, those holes rapidly fill in. And you absolutely don't want to be flying as GA anywhere near a trough. The commercial guys try to avoid troughs. So we as GA don't want to be suckered in to going for that hole that's along the trough line, because frequently it fills in. Troughs, narrow areas of heavy showers, thunderstorms, hail, gusts of wind, everything that goes with them. So you avoid troughs at all cost.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, if anyone hasn't been, I can highly recommend Weather School. That was just that we just managed to squeeze you in for like 20-25 minutes there, and that was absolutely bloody fascinating. So thank you very much for that.
Please, you enjoyed it.
And for that, I'm gonna give you the privilege, if you'd like, of hanging around and just watching us make fools of ourselves during Fantasy Hangar.
Why not? Why not?
Otherwise, you won't be annoyed if you click that button and disappear. So,
no, I'll hang around with you.
James says, much more interesting than the Ad Astral weather webinar last night. Well done, Simon. And there's Nick Allen pointed out that the documentary for the female paraglider pilot who ended up at crazy altitudes is to be found on YouTube, so worth a watch.
Wow,
I'm going to watch that.
Anyway, so Fancy Hangar, because two of our brilliant landing fees are in for Balado and Jersey, we thought if we had to pick one aeroplane from the classifieds to make that trip on one day in sunny June, what would it be? Who's first?
I appear to somehow have been first on the list, which I think is a fix. Because clearly I'm gonna win this one. For me, there is only one aircraft for a long summer's trip like this, or this is more than capable, and that's de Havilland Beaver. I mean, classic looking aircraft. Here we see this particular one's in the classifieds at $890,000, so I think it was like £660,000 or something like that. The full amphibian comes obviously with the amphibious floats there, but it also comes with a nice set of big tundra tire type stuff that you'd have on for most of the time. But clearly, you're going from Jersey all the way up to Balado. That'd be lovely. The radial just throb along, 130 knots thereabouts, maybe 120 knots, a little bit slower. And it would just be absolutely fantastic. You could easily leave Jersey's long runway with that, and then when you get to Scotland and your mates all join you, as you all will, I'm sure, in your choices. I think I'm right in saying that none of you got any amphibious floats. So once you're all sitting there drinking your cup of tea in Scotland, I'm just going to go and do a bit of lock flying and a bit of water flying now.
That is a pretty good choice.
If you want to go along, you can. But I think that's pretty good value. And that particular aircraft, I think it's got 400 hours on the engine. It's got an absolutely immaculate interior and a whole suite of Garmin glass that's been done really nicely inside. So it's not like it's not a fixer upper for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, I reckon that's like best part of $900,000, which I don't happen to have spare at the moment.
But that's fantasy.
Yeah, I don't need it for a fantasy, do I? So there you go. That's my one. Ed, you're next.
I'm next, and I picked this. So I found on Trader Plane the very last Staggerwing. It's a G model. They only ever made 20 of them, and this is number 20. Own a piece of history, says the advert. Completely restored in 2001, and it's gorgeous. And I love a Staggerwing. And it's another radial, but what a way to travel from Jersey. And I know you might be thinking, landing at Balado is a bit short, but I've seen someone bring a Staggerwing in and out of Wardswick, and beautifully done. So I'm confident that would do the trip. 170 knots behind 450 horsepower of Pratt & Whitney 985. But my Stagger Wing was as much as your Beaver, $900,000.
$900,000. I think you might be playing for a bit of history in that.
I think you're paying for a lot of history. It certainly wasn't for the avionics, which were antique-looking Bendix King Silver Crown.
That's a $200K discount in the negotiation.
Yeah.
But there you go. Yeah. Right, Johnny.
So mine is a bargain in comparison to both of yours. I've gone for a 1935 Waco. Just double check this. YOC1, one of the custom cabins. Look at that.
I like that.
Isn't it gorgeous?
That's nice.
Yeah, Jacobs radial. This has actually only got 180 hours on the engine. It's $179,000 on Barnstormers. If you want it. Apparently, in the ad, it says it's got Hollywood history. So I don't know who previously owned it, but
is the clue on the fin? Was it owned by Tweety Bird?
Oh my god! Yeah, I hadn't noticed that.
You know, the cartoon character.
It's Tweety Pie, isn't it?
Tweety Pie, yeah.
Tweety Pie. Here we go. Yeah. So,
but just look at the cabin. Ooh.
Awesome!
Wow.
Look at that.
Wow.
That's a pair of wheels, Johnny, and no mistake.
and they've even got the Flyer TV logo embroidered into the side. I think
that's a nice touch.
Nice touch, people. That does look pretty special. I kind of imagine a Brit from the 30s or 40s sort of turning up with the Hornet moth gang and a tweed jacket and a pipe. Okay, I have this rather lovely airplane, and then American rocks up in one of those kind of like lumberjack wife beater vests that they go, boy, hold my beer. Look at this. But no, that is a Billy bargain. You should buy that, Johnny. You should sell your house and buy it straight away.
Could live in it.
Yeah.
You can live in it. You can't fly a house, as they say. That just leaves Dave. Is Dave going to romp away with the final choice?
Well, you've all chosen some fantastic aeroplanes, but I think I've got it here. I've chosen the Spartan 7W Executive. This is quite a well-known aircraft in the UK. I've discovered it's been in displays and things like that. It's absolutely beautiful. It's 1938, but looks like new. In case you don't know, this is all metal retractable gear. It's another radial engine aircraft. It's with a Pratt & Whitney 985. It's got quite a good max speed of 223 knots, cruise of 187. It's absolutely luxurious inside with interesting controls. It is a heavy aircraft, so I went looking for performance figures to make sure I can get it in and out of Balado. And I actually found a copy of the pilot's operating handbook on a website called Vintage Spartan. Takeoff roll is 600 feet. The landing roll, it doesn't actually give that, but it does say, thanks to the ginormous 45-degree flaps, landing speed is reduced to 65 miles an hour. So I reckon 600 feet would do it.
Yeah.
It's up for sale on Barnstormers. It may be elsewhere as well, but this came from Barnstormers at $695,000. As I said, the engine has been recently overhauled, and it's got a whole bunch of stuff. It's got a big history as well, and it's at the moment it's based at Little Gransden.
So I mean,
I've got to say, normally a Spartan, and as much as I love a polished aeroplane, a polished metal aeroplane is like, oh my god, all that polishing, and I think this looks really good painted.
Yeah.
I agree. So right, we could buy all of our aircraft tonight for probably not much more than $2.5 million.
I know. Yeah, if only we had all that money. Simon, what one would you pick?
I'm going Johnny. Yeah, it's got to be Tweety Pie, innit?
What are they saying in the comments then, Ed?
There's a lot of general love across the board. Jane says, can you not get the Stagger Wing with floats? Someone did have a Stagger Wing with floats once. There are photos. There was a lot of Ed Wins, but that was an early thing. Aerotiques Darren liked Ian's Beaver, but that's before it. That was when it was Beaver only.
You might have written it after that.
I know. No, he didn't. It was before we'd even started. It was only when you'd gone. That's obviously Ian vetoing my Stagger Wing. for the tail, Annabelle points out she picked that same stagger wing for Fantasy Hangar a couple of months ago. You did, yeah. It still hasn't sold. I think not sure. We're not surprised. Cat Burton says Ed wins. Nothing can beat Beach 17. Annabelle says Johnny Warco, not Waco. Johnny wins. Johnny this one. Johnny just for the pronunciation. David Eads is saying, have these got a 424 miles range? I think they all have, David. What else have we got? Kath Benham says, 4 gorgeous aeroplanes, and Kath would know. Unfortunately, these are all lovely. Wow, says Nigel Hitchman. First time ever, I think everyone has chosen a great aeroplane. So, it got better every time, peaking with Dave. Dave, harsh. Dave loses. The designer's French curve must have warped slightly. That's what I mean. I think that's beautiful all over, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely stunning.
Dave wins. Tough one tonight. All good choices. Johnny wins. Johnny and Dave. Ian wins overall for me. Wow. Johnny's was even in the Bendix Trophy air race pre-war.
So was the Spartan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to call it. I'm just going to say,
the team did well.
Yeah, If we had any of those, they would be a good choice.
Yeah. Thank goodness for only a few mention of Ian's beaver.
I know. Yes, we're lucky Annabelle's not here.
So happy about that. Do you know, when I was doing Breakfast TV,
there would be a
TV. We had an OB to a beaver farm, and they refused to send me because they said they couldn't trust me.
They were right.
Sorry.
Indeed. I hope you sent a strongly worded email going, I don't know why you would say that.
Exactly. What do you mean? Anyway, sorry to bring the tone down.
Right. Where do you farm beavers anyway?
He's in Kent, of all places, believe it or not.
Do they drive combine harvesters and tractors and things like that?
I had a list sort of that long. and I was just banned.
Shall we move to events quickly?
Let's go to events.
Beaver away.
You wish you had to stop now, don't you? Sorry.
Saturday, there's the military air show at Shuttleworth. Saturday and Sunday, there's the Great Vintage Flying Weekend. Be interesting to see how that goes because it used to be a fantastic event. That's at Cotswold Airport. Sunday, 1st of June, gyrocopter flying at Shobden. Also on Sunday, the Kenyon Hall flying.
Brilliant. If you're expecting to go to Henstridge for the Wessex strut flying, that's been cancelled.
Yep.
Don't go there.
Absolutely not. It's on Sunday. It was on Sunday, but it's not on Sunday anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's right. So, that remains for me to say. Thank you very much, team. Thank you very much, everyone out there, for looking and watching, I should say. And if you haven't watched it yet, I hope you enjoy it, if you know what I mean. It's kind of a bit weird, isn't it? Anyway, and if you're not a member, please join. Thank you very much, SkyDemon. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you next Wednesday, next Thursday, and have fun.
Bye. Bye.